Revenge films.
I'm Mia. I'm 26 years old and live with my husband Eugene while working at an office. Eugene and I got married when I was 24, but I'm not thinking about having children yet. The reason is because my husband is way too immature. Eugene is 29, 3 years older than me, but he's incredibly selfish and self-centered. Even before we got married, I had concerns about his personality, but I thought he'd mature as he got older. But even after marriage, his personality didn't change one bit. If anything, lately his selfishness has been getting worse. Recently, he's been complaining to me every single day about how I spend money. Since we both work, we split the living expenses evenly. Eugene works in car sales, but his salary is lower than mine. I work in administration at a major company, so my income is pretty good. Even though we split expenses 50-50, it's completely unfair for him to tell me, "You need to save more." If I were living it up and spending recklessly, I'd understand. But I'm not interested in designer brands at all. In fact, I try to be frugal. That's why I couldn't understand why he suddenly started nitpicking about money and complaining. I began to feel suspicious of him. Our relationship kept getting worse, and one day when I came home, my husband suddenly shouted,
"I saw the household budget. You're spending $300 a month on food? That's way too much!"
I make meals for both of us, plus I pack a lunch for him every day. So I thought keeping food costs to $300 a month was actually proof of my frugalness. I told him, "What's so excessive about $300? He replied,
$300 for 2 people is ridiculous! $50 a month should be more than enough for food. If you're a housewife, at least try to save money."
He said something absolutely outrageous. I was furious, so I said, "Fine, I'll actually make meals on just $50. Are you really okay with that?" My husband replied,
"If you go over budget, we're getting divorced. Good luck."
He said it with a laugh, and I shot back. "Got it, and if you eat out on your own, we're getting divorced too." After that, I started thinking I couldn't live with him anymore and began considering divorce. Starting the next day, I began cooking with mostly bean sprouts to stay within the $50 monthly food budget. Breakfast was stir-fried bean sprouts and eggs. Lunch was packed with pickled bean sprouts with rice and furikake seasonings. Dinner was bean sprout soup and beans. After 3 days of this diet, my husband gave up. On the 3rd evening when he came home, he exploded.
"Enough already! Why is it bean sprouts every single day?"
After buying rice, I only have $15 left for food. So I can only afford bean sprouts. Just deal with it. He responded,
"If you tried harder, you could at least buy meat. Make meat dishes like before. I'm gonna get sick eating like this."
"Even if you say that, there are limits to what $50 can buy. You're the one who suggested this, so you need to put up with it too." He couldn't say anything after that. For dinner that day, I only cooked 1 cup of rice to save money, so I only served him half a bowl. My husband clicked his tongue and ate dinner with a dissatisfied look on his face. 1 week later, I made dinner as usual and waited for him to come home, but he didn't show up. I thought it was suspicious and called him, but he didn't answer. After waiting a while, he finally came home past 11 p.m. He clearly smelled like barbecue, so I knew immediately he'd eaten out. "Wait, did you eat out?" I confronted him and he snapped back.
"What's wrong with using my own money to eat out?"
"You broke your promise," I said calmly, and he replied,
Yeah, so what? It's not like you have the guts to actually divorce me anyway."
I pulled out the divorce papers I'd prepared in advance from the drawer and held them in front of him. He said,
"What's this, a threat?"
"I'm serious." Seeing my serious expression and realizing I meant it, he started to panic, saying,
"What's wrong with eating out with my own hard-earned money? Anyone would get tired of bean sprouts every day, right?"
"I work too, but you told me to keep food costs at $50. And I told you, if you eat out on your own, we're getting divorced, remember? He couldn't say anything after I yelled at him. Then I confronted him with something I'd actually known about for a while. After he started complaining about how I spent money, I became suspicious, so I secretly began investigating his activities without him knowing. My husband rarely came home late, so if he were cheating, it would most likely be during work hours. With that in mind, I decided to stake out his workplace on my day off. Sure enough, in the early afternoon, he left work early and hurried toward the train station. Then he went into a maid cafe. My husband had been leaving work early repeatedly to go to maid cafes and shower gifts on his favorite girl. When I asked his company's president about his recent behavior, he said he was constantly making excuses to leave early, which was causing problems. Because of this, his salary had been cut. He'd been demanding we reduce food costs because he wanted money to spend on her. When my husband realized his misdeeds had been exposed, he reluctantly apologized, saying,
"Okay, I get it. I won't go anymore."
I replied, "Go if you want. We're going to be strangers soon anyway, so it doesn't concern me." And I pushed him away. He looked panicked and said,
"Are you really going to divorce me? Cut me some slack! I can't survive on my salary alone!"
"That's not my problem. You're the one who brought up divorce, right? I am not changing my mind, so hurry up and sign it." I urged him to sign the divorce papers. He cried and said,
"I understand. I won't say anything about food costs anymore. I won't go to the maid cafe, and I'll work seriously."
He kept apologizing persistently, but my decision was already made, so I didn't accept his apology. I immediately packed my things and left the house and stayed at my parents' home for a while. When I explained the situation to my parents, they said I could stay until things settled down. I found out later that my husband had borrowed money from consumer finance companies to spend on the maid. Apparently, he has to make high monthly payments. When I heard that, I truly felt I'd made the right decision divorcing him early. After that, it came out at his company that he'd been leaving early to go to maid cafes, and he got fired. With loan payments to make and now unemployed, my husband fell behind on his apartment rent, and he eventually got evicted and lost his place to live. My husband has gotten his job through connections. A friend of my father-in-law ran the company. When the president told my father-in-law what happened, he was furious at having his reputation destroyed, and he disowned Eugene. With nowhere left to turn, my husband ended up on the streets. I heard he's now doing construction work as a day laborer while homeless, trying to pay back his loans. Unable to pay his phone bill and with no fixed address, he became unreachable to everyone and he disappeared completely. My father-in-law contacted me to apologize on behalf of his son, but since I wasn't saddled with any debt and wasn't particularly inconvenienced after the divorce, I told him I didn't hold a grudge. The thought of what would have happened if I'd been stuck with his debt makes me shudder. If that had happened, I definitely wouldn't have been able to forgive him. Thinking about it, I felt grateful I'd escaped the marriage unscathed. After the divorce, I commuted to work from my parents' house for a while. 6 months later, I started living alone in an apartment. Living independently, I have become much happier than before. Without having to worry about anyone else, I can freely hang out with friends and travel. Life is truly amazing now. I think I can appreciate this because I endured my husband's selfishness for so long. For now, I'm not thinking about dating or remarrying. I want to enjoy this free life and live happily. I'm still only 27, so maybe someday in the future I'll remarry. But I know for certain I'll never marry someone as selfish as my ex-husband again.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.